Hello, young traveler. Welcome to the Histories of Aliusterre, and the first video for this channel. My name is Ethan, and I would what you would call a self-taught world builder, if you will. I've been doing a world building project for the better half of 2 to 3 years now. I would say about 3, but ideas about it have came way before I ever started to write down anything. I wanted to create this channel so I can spread the world I've created because I genuinely think people might like it. They might not. But I want to give people stories to tell and stories to read because storytelling is one of my favorite things to do. I'm very invested in some of the greatest stories ever told, like The Lord of the Rings, Dune, and Star Wars. Those are some of my 3 favorite things in terms of film and books. However, I've always wondered, can I myself do this? And the short answer is, yeah, I kind of could. The long answer is, it took me a while to figure out how to really create a world. So in today's video, we're going to be going over a brief history of the idea, the concept of my world, Aliusterre, and we're going to dive into the creation point of the world within the world, not just, in the real world where I'm just coming up with ideas and just trying to think of what will stick and what won't. So yeah, this is the first episode of the Histories of Aliusterre, and we'll be starting off with the history of coming up with Aliusterre. So how did Aliusterre come to be? Well, when I was around in the 6th grade, here's a photo for reference. I looked a lot better back then. I was very interested with the concept of creating a made-up nation. At that point, my biggest interests were history. So I was like, what if I could create history myself? So I found the oldest map I could find, and this is what it is. As we see, we have a continent called Nordon, and this continent is actually the central, most significant continent in Aliusterre, the one I write the most about because it was the origin point, and I'll explain to how that evolved over time. But for right now, this is the first map of Nordon, the first piece of Aliusterre's history. Now, what I can say of this is it is completely outdated and not very creative. I was a huge Civil War buff. It's my favorite history subject, so a lot of the names are there's Lukenberg, Williamsburg, which is Revolutionary War, same with Long Island, and it's just I took a lot of history from the real world and just kind of did a little bit of I'll call it Cedar Port, which I'm pretty sure is a real place, Fort George, and it's just not very creative naming schemes, just the typical I'm just delving into what it means to create a world. There's also another name that is actually quite important, and that is New Froil. Froils will become one of the enemies of the Nordians, which I know it sounds like Nords, but I was young. The word Nordon actually stayed, and I'm thinking about changing it actually, but that's a story for another time. The most important thing about this map is it gives us 3 things: the name Nordon, the name New Froil, and these isles, which were the actual central idea of the world itself. The story is that there was a republic of the Froil Republic and the Candin Empire. And those 2 names also, technically this map gives us a lot more than 3 things, and I'm just now recognizing how much this actually started the foundation of Aliusterre. The story is the Candin Empire and the New Froils are racing to conquer these islands called the Emerald Isles. They're called the Emerald Isles because along with emeralds, they have a load of minerals. They have a bunch of gemstones and metals, and that's the central purpose of them colonizing this continent. And that is to an extent what happens in Aliusterre as of today, but drop the emerald stuff, and it's more of just a race for colonial power in a new continent. But this is the first ever map of Nordon, and it is the foundational point to me creating all of what I have today, all the way back in the 6th grade. Now we fast forward to the Bowens. After I created Nordon and this little concept, I did a slideshow, of like a brief history of it, and it wasn't really that good, and I still have it to this day. But in freshman year of high school, I got this journal, and within the journal, I was thinking, maybe I should give this story building another shot. And so I did, and I ended up creating the island of Boa. I hope the camera can see. And as we can see here, we have a few maps. We have some detailed history about the civil war which internally broke the nation within, all because of a man named Ulki who would destroy the nation through a civil war he caused so he can ultimately save his people because of floods. And I'll get into that when we get to that, because that's actually how Boa now starts, or ends in this case, and that's a foundational point to settling in Nordon. And you're thinking, how does Nordon and this new place come connected? Well, if I can find it real quick, there's another map that I also created around the same time. It's not this one, it's not this one.
2 hours later.
Here it is. And it has two places of very important interest, the Elkins and the Acorians. And so I was thinking, maybe there's a way I can connect these people all together into one continent, one singular continent where all of this stuff happens. And so I did. I took the Bowens and made them become the Elkins, and then the Elkins would meet the Acorians and they'll become their biggest rivals. And then the Nordians will settle from the Candin Empire, they'll settle from the south, and the new Froils will also come in from the old Froil Republic. And thus Nordon has people. And so that was the second major, I would say, event in the creation of Aliusterre, is the four great Nordon nations. And so after combining some stuff and creating some people, I created this map in sophomore year of high school. Hopefully the camera can see it pretty well. As we can see, we have a made-up name for myself, Ethan Marr. Marr is used, but it's not Ethan Marr. It has IY, has its a year system. It has some of the isles from the original map. It has it has the Acorian Plain. It has the Elkin Valley. It has New Froil here. It has Nordia here. And so the map began to take form, and I added some mysterious lore with like the unknown and the Eye of Nordon, where the wise live. And all this is kind of still in Aliusterre. Some of it has changed, of course, over time, because this is a 2-year-old map. And then I got to thinking again, a lot of fantasy worlds, and of course the real world, don't only have one singular continent. They have multiple continents with multiple histories. And from this map, I revised it, and then I created this, which I have camera footage of the entire map of Aliusterre that I've created up to this point. This map is by no means complete, but now we have 4 major continents within Aliusterre, and this is where I started to really have a new passion, a new rebirth for this project. And then I started to write down everything that I had created up to that point in a document. And then from there I created new people, I created new histories, new nations, new everything. And it is all accumulated into this singular document, which is not finished in the slightest. Most of what I've done is the theological and the history of people, with some of the cultures and economics that are present in real world countries, but I haven't really gotten into the nitty gritty of the stuff. It's mostly just who came before whom, why is this place like this, who created this place, and so on and so forth. And so with all of that, the purpose of this episode is to discuss the central theme and the theological creation event of Aliusterre, to kind of understand what this world is like, how this world functions, and it'll leave the audience, hopefully, with questions and Like, why is this? How does this work? What is this? We're going to read over the Foundation of Aliusterre. Our story begins in a far-off world where the fates of gods and mortals are intertwined into a magical place, where the birth of a god is the rise of a people, and the fall of a country is the death of a god. Deep in the abyss before time itself was born laid the All-Being, an entity that existed and will exist beyond time itself. The source of all power and wisdom the All-Being sought to create a way to destroy the abyss, to fill it with light so that none may ever experience the suffering it wreaked upon all who fell into its clutches. For millennia he crafted worlds, and for millennia they fell apart. His power was too great, his fingers were too calloused from the abyss's torment. One day he could no longer take the pain, and tears spilled from his all-seeing eyes. He poured his heart into the abyss, never expecting to see it again, but from his tears formed his heart, the thing he could not access within himself. And thus was the first birth, name. We're going to get into the name of this goddess in a short bit. Purity, justice, and love given form. The abyss saw this purity and leapt to crush it with a frenzy never before nor seen ever again. But the All-Being, seeing what the abyss was about to do, surrounded her with himself and took the beating. No matter what the abyss did, he did not relent. Name, touched by his sacrifice, began stitching him immediately. For every new wound, two were healed, until the abyss could no longer attack, and thus was banished into nothingness. Together the duo created the world, etc., etc. Alómária was her name. A fun story, this creation event was not entirely my doing. I had a good friend who was actually one of the first people that were interested in this project that I created, and I was having trouble creating like this creation point. I had understood what I wanted those are my dogs, sorry about that. I had understood So how's your day been? At this point, I'm just going to let the dogs bark it because they're not going to shut up. Anyways, as I was saying, this friend of mine, she actually helped create this story about the All-Being and the Abyss and Alómária. I came up with the name Alómária. She came up with this great love story that I was deeply touched by. I was like, whoa, he's so powerful. He was too powerful. He needed something to hold him back, and I thought that was very, very unique, and I'm very thankful that she actually created that for me, because it was one of the struggling points of how does this world actually form? Because I knew the All-Being. I knew what I wanted the All-Being to be. I wanted the All-Being to be the father of all the gods in Aliusterre, and the way it would work is the children of the All-Being were bound to the nation. That line where it reads, where the birth of a god is the rise of a people, and where the fall of a country is the death of God. I came up with that concept in high school, and so, for example, the Elkin goddess is the god bound to the people of the Elkins. They believe in a theology created around her. Now, an Acorian would see that and say that this religion is wrong, and they have different customs, not knowing that they are both going to be saved because they both believe a child of the All-Being. Now, to understand how this works, I would have to get into a lot of stuff, but because I wanted this to be short, in short, I didn't mean to say short twice, the All-Being and his children are the foundations of all the nation's religions, but the All-Being becomes non-existent in the minds of men in Aliusterre. And we'll get into that in the next episode, where we'll discuss how Nordon came to be and the Continental Three. And with that, I am glad that you have watched this video. Hopefully, maybe it won't do so well, maybe it will. Who knows? That is the fun thing of life. You never know what will happen. And with that, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you are more interested in the idea of creating your own worlds or looking into other people's stuff, not just mine. I mean, of course, I want to spread this to people because I think that people would enjoy it. As any creator would. That's why people create things. That's what stories are driven by. The passion to tell someone a story, whether it be for fun, for a message, for anything really. And so I hope that you are inspired to go create your own stories and listen to other people's, because people have great things to give. And I hope you enjoyed. I already said that. I'll see you next time. And of course, safe travels. Goodbye.